Thank you, Rodney. Also, I'd like to mention, because I lean on them all the time to make trips, to show up, whether it's in Georgia or in Washington for events. Tyron and, of course, Rodney, Larry Cunningham, Roger Branch, and Robin Singletary. They're A-team when it comes to helping out in our work, not just Farm Bill work, but also any other regulatory matters and legislative matters on peanut. And those are not fun trips that they make, I promise. And I think they'll tell you the same thing. This morning I want to talk a little bit about these areas, sort of the political landscape, where we are right now in agriculture and peanut, federal issues that relate to us, sort of an outlook for the rest of this year, and the 2014 Farm Bill, where we are, and then strategy, early strategy for the 2018 bill. And I think that's important. First, on the political landscape, these next round of March primaries should tell us more on the presidential race. I will tell you, this is to note, I'm not telling you who to support and who not to support, but I will tell you Senator Cruz has been pretty negative on core pieces for us relative to crop insurance, nutrition on programs related to us, export programs, and these sorts of things. I want to flag that for you because you need to understand it. These are important times, these are important votes. And who knows how these folks will be once they win, any of them. But for agriculture, you need to make note of who's for us and who's not for us. This is becoming increasingly important as Congress gets more divided and more separated from the administration, as we've seen the last 8 years. The place that means the most for us in peanut right now is what's going on with the Senate races. This round in November, we'll have 34 Senate seats up, 10 Democrat and 24 Republican. Focus on those 24 Republican seats. The power in the South, basically most of our senators are Republican. So you have, when the Republicans in charge in the Senate, you have more power. Relative to these races, of the 24 seats that are up, most of our peanut states have all Republican senators. Of the 24 that are up, a lot of those seats were carried by President Obama in his 2 elections. If we have a weak Republican candidate and a strong Democratic candidate, there's a good chance some of those Republican seats would flip. We did well in the 2014 Farm Bill under Democratic control as we led up to the bill, but there is risk with the less power you have. So if the Senate flips, it could be a game changer. Now, still time to flip back before we get down probably to passing a bill for 18, but just be aware the Senate is really key. The House will stay Republican. We've got a strong team over there. Trent Kelly is one of the new members. The House Ag Committee for Peanut is very strong. Chairman Conaway, just like former Chairman Lucas, strong supporters. Colin Peterson, who's from Minnesota, ranking Democrat. David Scott of Georgia, who's the next Democrat on the committee, are all strong peanut supporters. Subcommittee chairman from David Rouser of North Carolina, Austin Scott of Georgia, and Rick Crawford, who's just across the river into Arkansas, in the largest peanut district in the state of Arkansas, and chairman of the Commodities and Crop Insurance Subcommittee, are all strong advocates for us. So we go into this a very, very strong House team. In the Senate, with Senator Cochran, he helped save us last time during the Senate process when we could have had a really bad situation. We've got several key members. Bozeman from Arkansas, who's on the committee, big supporter of peanut. David Purdue's a member of the Senate Ag Committee, and also, as I mentioned, Cochran. So we've got a good team leading up to the 18 bill. None of those seats are likely to roll between now and the 2018 bill. So it's we're positioned well as we could be. I'd like now to talk a little bit about the issues coming up for the rest of this year, second session, 114 Congress. The budget package in the House. The good news with the package that's negotiated with the House Budget Committee is Chairman Conaway had input on the bill, unlike what we saw end of last year when we ran into a $3 billion cut on crop insurance. Although the administration's proposal had an $18 billion over 10-year cut in crop insurance, not likely to happen. The Senate is unlikely to pass, even if they consider on the floor a budget package. So right now, we're in pretty good shape on that and not facing what we did last year, despite there being some controversy. There is risk for us over the next 3 years, and most of those are tied with the annual appropriations bills dealing with ag and produce. The new speaker believes in a more open process, unlike Speaker Boehner. If you'll recall, most of our annual funding bills were tied to an omnibus. They were all put together, passed at the end of the year. Speaker Ryan would like to do these under what they call regular order. So they'll bring an ag appropriations bill to the floor, and we'll have 200 or 300 amendments. Those amendments will not be to increase the reference price on peanut, increase storage and handling costs, or improve quality issues for shellers. Those amendments will be negative amendments across the board for every segment of peanut: grower, fine point, sheller. So new committees are becoming increasingly important for us. House Rules Committee, which will determine what amendments are brought to the floor. They'll screen those. They'll say, this amendment goes, this amendment does not go. So that's a new committee for us. We've always had some support on that committee. It's not a big peanut committee or a big ag committee, but that committee will become much more important if the House goes to a regular order of considering these appropriations bills. We benefit when things get really messed up and they do these things in one big package at the end of the year and there are no amendments. That's the way we want to go. As rural votes decline and pro-ag votes decline, and they are declining in the House and the Senate, that we have to use these kind of tools, an omnibus, for example, with appropriations, to keep our items. I'd like to roll through a couple of little things here, and then I'm going to get into more peanut-specific items. Congressman Kelly mentioned the TPP trade agreement, unlikely to come up this year. I don't think the House and the Senate will give President Obama his trade package. They're working it, administration's working it hard. Our peanut growers are supporting it, but unlikely to come up this year. Senator McConnell, Majority Leader in the Senate, has already said unlikely that he'll bring it up over there. But it will pass eventually and will benefit peanut in the long run. Child nutrition reauthorization, some of these feeding programs use peanut butter and are of value. The Senate Ag Committee passed a bipartisan bill. It has some hope of moving forward. The House will be a different story. We'll see two very different child nutrition reauthorization packages that go into conference. So that could take a while, but will happen this year. There's something a little different going on that's a big picture for 2017. The election's going to choke most of the progress for this year in Congress, even more than we've seen in the past. The other deal is that from timing, Congress will literally stop work in mid-July, go home, come back for a few days in September, and be done until the election. So not a lot of things happening before the election. And then in that window, you'll see in the lame duck session, post first Tuesday of November after the election, you'll see a lot of work between then and Christmas. So that's where we'll see a lot of things that can happen, including the TPP. The new speaker has brought members of the Republican caucus together and formed 6 task forces. And these task forces in 6 areas, and I'm going to rapidly go through those, but I want you to understand sort of an outlook for 2017, what the House leadership would like to work on in 17. Those task forces will report back on their items in July of this year. Regulatory reform, which touches on WOTUS and some of the other items that Congressman Kelly mentioned, tax reform, health care, poverty and welfare, which will focus on the nutrition and SNAP issues, national security, and the last one, and this is important, we talked some last night about this with some of you, and that is reclaim legislative authority. Well, reclaim legislative authority. We've had a very proactive administration on regulations. Particularly the House has been very upset about that. The other item that was slipped in that debate has to do with earmarks. How do you deal with special grants? And you may say, well, I don't like earmarks. Well, you've benefited from earmarks. The numbers for the last 3 farm bills for peanut have all come out of an earmark, $1.75 million over 3 years. I went to the University of Georgia to develop data, economic data, of what works and doesn't work. That all came out of an earmark. There are other research, seeds, water, all types of items were all based on earmarks. So be careful before you say we don't like earmarks. We've benefited financially in the peanut industry from those things. So that will be part of the discussion. Peanut priorities for this year. For us on the grower side, protect the 2014 Farm Bill. Crop insurance continues to be under attack. We saw that last year. Administration's proposal is pretty negative on crop insurance, but unlikely to go anywhere. But we just need to be vigilant as we've shifted money out of farm programs, and they have shifted to crop insurance. We're going to see that continue to happen. We've got to protect that money, or we'll have much less money in agriculture. The peanut provisions will be under attack, and I mentioned this to the growers this past year at their annual meeting, that it used to be when we would go under attack, somebody would offer an amendment to lower, let's say, the price support price or the reference price, if it were today, 10%, or cut it $20. That's not what we face now when you see a floor amendment. It'll be to eliminate it all, eliminate all of it. It'll be the marketing loan program, storage and handling, separate payment limit. This won't be a whittle away. It'll be an all or nothing. The members that are attacking these agricultural pieces now are finding a way to get to the money. And all of these items have value to us and to every single segment of the industry, not just growers. Growers, buying points, and shellers. We've all benefited from these programs for many years. The attacks now won't be tweaks or like, I wish that wouldn't have happened. I hate that we lost that. It'll be much different. It'll be all or nothing, and that's what we'll face. We also had the Nicaragua peanut industry. It's been to Washington twice. They met with the U.S. Trade Representative's Office. They've also met with USDA Secretary's Office to discuss that our program is offensive to them, it's hurting them economically, and they've hired a lobbyist, a trade lobbyist in Washington, to start pursuing items related to the U.S. peanut program. We're monitoring that. American Peanut Council's on top of it. Shellers, growers, buying points. So I'm just making you aware of it. That's an issue that we'll watch closely. We've been advised by both the department and USTR that this early stage, it does not look like at this time something similar to what cotton went through a dozen years ago with Brazil, but it is something we want to watch very closely. I'm really glad Kathy's here this morning. We've had a lot of questions about certificates. Language was put in last year's fiscal 16, giving the Secretary authority to put certificates back in play. I don't think they've been in play since we had 07 or 08, 02 Farm Bill, but those were the last years. We had a lot of questions about it. A lot of peanut have not used it, unlike cotton. And we've had some FSA turnover at the county level since then, and not everybody's familiar with it. So I think that'll be very helpful too. So I encourage you to ask questions because we do need to get answers, and today would be a really good time to deal with the certificate issue. I would like to talk just real quick about preparation for the 18 Farm Bill, and this is really important. Growers will do some listening sessions this year. 17 will be a big year for growers on regional listening sessions. We're talking about how we'll do that, but that's a critical piece for us. How is the bill working? What are the issues with the bill, etc. Congress has held one Farm Bill hearing already in prep for the 18, and that was on cotton. And that was right before they went home in December. We've been told by House Ag leadership that we'll see other commodity-specific hearings, including peanut hearings, this year. So we need to be prepared for this. We need to be talking with each other, and these are our three coalition partners, Buying Point, Sheller, and Grower, discussing how this program's working, what we'd like to see changed, what we'd like to see stay the same. Because I do think we have a very aggressive chairman of House Ag, and he will start the process very early, we'll see probably maybe even field hearings this year, but definitely in 17. On the 2014 Farm Bill, I wanted to make a few comments. We've all faced some overplanting on the peanut issue and where our prices are. All commodities are suffering. I had a large peanut and cotton producer in Georgia who never contacts me. I have my posse that's regular with email, texting, and calls, but I don't hear much from this particular farmer, and he's a very large grower. And he called me and said, I can't believe these politicians did this to us on cotton, put us in this situation on peanut with too many acres. Well, it didn't happen that way. Every single commodity, including corn and soy, got exactly what they asked for. All of us went in. We wanted a PLC program on peanut. Rice wanted a PLC on rice. We got the reference price we asked for, actually $1 more than we asked for on peanut. Rice got their reference price. On ARC, corn, wheat, and soy all got the programs, and cotton got their stacks program exactly like they wanted. And that's really important to remember. The Secretary has turned down the cottonseed PLC ARC program recently. You've seen probably a lot in the ag trade press about that. Whatever the rationale for that, for it or against it, don't forget, these programs are what we asked for. So the policy piece, where we are today, is exactly what the grower organizations asked for. And that's important to remember as we tee up 318. These guys went to bat for us. Chairman Lucas, who's spoken at several of our meetings from Oklahoma, he worked hard to have that House package spot on for all the southern commodities. So what we sent USDA is pretty much what these groups asked for. This is an important part to this, and I want to mention today, kind of wrapping up. When we finished the 2014 Farm Bill, it was signed into law in 2014. In April of 2014, the Congressional Budget Office scored peanut at $677 million over 10 years. $677 million over 10 years. We went into the Farm Bill with a baseline of, I think, 1.1 to 1.5, depending on what numbers you looked at, but less than 1.5 billion over 10 years. So out of the 08 bill, less than 1.5. Projected cost of this program, $677 million once President Obama signed it. The January 31, 2016 score for peanut was a little over $7 billion. A little over $7 billion. That's a lot of money. Now, the way farm groups have gone to Congress, at least I've been in 7 farm bills, not peanut, but most farm groups, particularly the Midwest guys, will go into a farm bill trying to improve their baseline. They want to get as much money as they can. Cotton, rice, and peanut have been more focused on program nuances. You know, we had supply management with the quota program until the 02 bill and those sorts of things. And we had a lot of different things, moving pieces with the peanut program. So did rice and cotton. But not so much concerned about the baseline. And remember, there were farm bills where we had literally zero government cost, other than the administrative fees under supply management. But our baseline going into the 18 bill will be huge. One of the areas of debate will be what happens with generic acres. Those are cotton-based acres that were salvaged in case we ever went back to anything for cotton. But that's a debate that will occur in peanut, cotton and peanut, and rice and others. But just be aware of that as we move closer to 18 in the next year to 18 months. That will be an important piece. And number 2, that you're going into this bill unless something radically changes relative to a cotton program versus stacks, what they have now, and that's unlikely, that the issue will be peanut will go into this bill with the most money of all time. I think our score in the quota buyout in 2002 is $4.5 billion. Remember, the huge piece of that was the federal government paying quota holders for the quota. That's not what's happening here. These are payments and other items. So that's a big deal. That's a lot of money. In summary, our peanut coalition, growing buying points and shellers, we work well together. We do events together. In a larger universe, it's cotton, rice, peanut, and sugar. We're doing events together in Washington and in the field. We work well together, and we're hopeful that all of us will go into this next bill, and when I say all of us, cotton, rice, and peanut, with a proposal that's the same for the 18 bill. Focus is on identifying our key congressional advocates, building support for them at home as well as financially, increasing our PAC contributions. Some of the shellers and some of the buying points have really stepped up for us, some have not. If this program, all or nothing, means anything to you and to your business, you need to do better. We've got to have this support. Frank Lucas, who doesn't share anything anymore, but he's on House Ag and House Financial Services. Frank Lucas told me if he has a tight race, it'll be a primary, somebody running from the right, the Tea Party against him. Frank Lucas said that race will cost me $1 million to $2 million I'll have to raise. My dues, what I have to pay the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, are somewhere around $500,000. So if you figure in increments of $10,000 events, he's got to have 50 fundraisers, 50 breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and they're not that much fun. To pay his dues, just like a country club or a Rotary club, that's what he's got to raise. So there's a lot of pressure on these folks for money, more than ever before. And there are only certain industry sectors that will participate in any kind of large way. Ag is one of those. And we're going to have to do much better than we've done in the past. We've got to prioritize issues each year, 16, 17, 18. For last year, we had to get certificates. We got it. We had to clean up the crop insurance issue. We got it in our coalition. The next 2 years, listening sessions for all of our segments and working together to make sure we offer something that pleases the key grower segments, the buying points, and the shellers, so we can remain a strong team. Thank you very much.